Okay, thank you everybody again for joining. Really appreciate it. Obviously, we're moving into the festive season for many of us, and time is precious. I'm sure there's lots of planning underway and getting things sorted for the start of next year. So this half an hour to 40 minutes is really appreciated of your time. We hope it's of benefit and of interest. So today we're going to be talking about why subscriber retention is the new growth. And your presenters today are me, Ben Edwards. I'm the Business Development Director here at PageSuite. So that means I get to speak to existing clients and potential new PageSuite publishers to understand their strategic needs, be it around subscriptions, like the focus of today's webinar, or advertising, or data, or content. And I get to cover and work with clients all over the world, really. So as far west as LA and as far east as Fiji, with everybody in between, large and small. And with me also today is Jamie.
Hi everyone, I'm Jamie Ollie. I'm digital and mobile specialist here at PageSuite.
Got any questions, please feel free to ask those using the Zoom panel, and those will get answered at the end, but ask them at any point in time and our marketing team will collate them ready for me and Jamie to tackle. We'll be recording this, hopefully editing out my start and then sending so you and your colleagues can listen to this back or share it or do whatever you like, and the deck will be supplied too. So straight into it, what have we got to get covered today? We're going to be looking at what's hot in the media industry. We always do this on the webinars, just a quick 4 or 5 minute overview on what's happening around the world in newspapers and magazines. We'll also be covering what we're seeing and hearing going into next year, and the key things to consider with your paid for content and retention strategies will follow. Then be looking at the importance of digital only editions to keep hold of subscribers. And we'll be looking at the big features and functionality that can make a difference to readers as you look to hold on to them and engage them. So just as a taster, we've got some statistics and graphs on the right-hand side, which piqued our interest and allowed us to focus in on the retention. These came from the Reuters Institute most recent report. So well worth investigating and checking that out, downloading if you haven't already. The first graph shows the percentage of people across 40 markets who'd miss local newspapers, and then there's a deeper dive into 5 of those markets: Germany, Norway, USA, UK, and the Philippines. And I think this shows the strong value that regional content holds with audiences, and also the percentage that local brands of the audience need to focus on. Retain the people who really care about your content. The second graph is also a great showcase, and it focuses in on the fact that once someone is paying for their digital content, be it news or magazines, there's a really significant percentage, you're looking at 78, 79, 80 odd % plus, who believe and understand that they'll be subscribing 12 months after. So already the baseline is there to be got at in terms of retention. So what's happening on the industry side of things? Well, there's lots of big news stories that have been covered. In our last webinar, we showed how digital audiences across a number of brands had grown significantly during COVID, but had started leveling off. But that was pre-US election. So we're seeing that peak slightly again here in the UK with Brexit and the festivities coming up. There's also an anticipated uplift. The first graph shows that brands like New York Times and Washington Post have made some big subscription gains this year and accelerated that throughout the pandemic. What's also been interesting this week, in fact, is that Facebook have announced they're going to be paying some UK publishers. News UK is a notable absentee, potentially because News Corp in Australia is fighting against Facebook for a similar revenue release. So that kind of makes sense. But interesting to see Facebook sort of bending a little to national or regional publishers there. Apple also made an announcement this week, yesterday in fact, where publishers can now offer targeted discounts on in-app purchases and subscriptions, which might be of benefit and use to people on today's call through the iTunes store. So you can offer deep discounted holiday specials or promotions that then kick up to full price afterwards, for instance. And Apple have labeled it an ability for publishers to acquire, retain, or win back potential subscribers. So a positive step from Apple in that perspective. The other thing they announced was that any brand who is generating less than $1 million gross per year will actually have the net percentage reduced from 30 to 15. So there should be some revenue gains for publishers to be had. The majority of our clients are certainly per brand, sub 1 million in in-app subscriptions per year, because obviously a lot of them are now looking at bundle subscriptions or trying to drive existing subscribers to use a username and login to sort of circumnavigate that net percentage that the likes of Apple and Google take. Starting to see here in the UK a number of new lockdown circulation offers, be it delivery to the door. Obviously, that's to sort of negate the fact that copy sales at newsstands will likely drop off because people are isolating at home or unable to get out quite as frequently. And in all sorts of markets across the world, be that in the Caribbean, in parts of Asia and Europe, deliveries have also been impacted. So we're seeing publishers we work with internationally also doing various circulation offers because distribution's been impacted. We're working with a publisher at the moment who has made significant cuts to their print distribution and is offering digital editions as a viable alternative. We'll dive into that in greater detail because that's of interest. And try and not get too negative because it's supposed to be a happy, uplifting time of year, but no doubt a lot of us on the call today have experienced the advertising declines. That's what the second graph shows. The blue element of it was the anticipated growth in advertising revenues. Unfortunately, because of COVID, not only has that taken an anticipated dip, it's an actual decline. And Jamie, I know you've been recently reading some reports that showed some insight into that as well.
Yeah, exactly. And also just on the last point there on the slide about obviously the vaccine news, we've just recently published a report actually on how one publisher in particular has dealt with the advertising decline during the pandemic.
The other great thing,
yeah, go on, Ben.
So the other great thing from the vaccine perspective is that for B2B publishers in particular, who are very reliant on events and conferences and awards, hopefully that signifies the start of a comeback for them. So planning for 2021, no doubt most of that will have been done already, but we still have a month left. And the feedback we're getting from publishers is that there has been a doubling down on the focus on the platforms that are delivering them the highest return on investment. So really evaluating whether social, be it Facebook, be it Snapchat, whatever, has that driven demonstrable increases in audience engagement or revenues. Having a look at their web solutions, having a look at the apps, making sure that the return on investment that has been anticipated is still going to be delivered in these changing times going forwards into 2021. We've also seen some nice subscriber acquisition offers recently. So you've got like the Washington Post and the Financial Times teaming up for a sort of cross-border subscriber bundle. You've got the publishers giving free gifts, publishers giving better gifts if you sign up for a longer subscription term to try and incentivize, big one-off payment from a subscriber or commitment to a longer term, and also seen a number of different low-price trials. One of our clients, Egmont, who's leading the way in Scandinavia with their kiosk product. It houses about 40 or 50 magazines under the brand name Flip in each of Denmark, Finland, and Sweden. It's a popular reference for us because they're very successful at it. They've always sold to consumers really well. They've started increasing the number of partner deals, hence the oil rig. So the Norwegian arm of Egmont has recently done a deal with the biggest oil company in Norway so that all of their offshore employees can consume across the range of magazines as part of that deal. So a fantastic partner revenue opportunity that's been done by Egmont. No doubt other publishers are looking at trying to do similar. On the subscriber retention perspective side of things, we've had a number of new launches. We'll touch on those, including new digital edition products, digital only edition products, essentially where publishers are looking to offer existing subscribers more for the same price to retain them as strongly as possible. This year, there's been an increased involvement across the stakeholder group with inside media organisations. It's always been important, but a lot of newsrooms are more stretched than ever and have got increasing digital KPIs and targets. So we're finding that when it comes to product reviews or product enhancements, the focus more than ever is on automation. It's on simplicity and making demonstrable returns. So that newsroom engagement is becoming more important than ever. The second graph shows something interesting relating to the subscriber growth. There's so many subscription products in the market, be it TV, video on demand was the big benefitor during the first wave of COVID, as you can see from the graph. But digital news and magazines and media has also benefited from a slight bump, but with things like subscriptions to Spotify or Apple Music, and then everything from razors to socks have been subscribified. You've got to start to think about, from a consumer's perspective, when does it all get too much? And that then drives the last question, which is, how can you be the ones that resist the subscriber fatigue and don't get churned and burned? So when we're looking at retention, a large part of this is through focusing on the paid for revenue strategies that different types of publishers are deploying. And these are some of the areas of interest also that raise questions almost internally to consider when you're thinking about the best ways to try and retain your subscribers. Guardian, Washington Post have had a renewed emphasis on what content offers society and democracy. They're constantly urging their members, in the case of Guardian, and subscribers, in the case of Washington Post, to stay with them as they provide important coverage around things like the elections and the pandemic. And I know a number of other publishers are doing similar, but focusing more on the actual content creation and the journalism side of things, ensuring that readers see the journalists. I know for one title that I subscribe to, I now get to see even the journalist's face on one of the newsletters I get. But I think it's important that publishers do things like that, because then subscribers start to feel like they're part of that journey with the publisher. Subscriber-only newsletters. You've got limited invite conference calls that New York Times pioneered. You've got the pre-COVID meet and greets where you go and actually meet the editor. And that personal relationship with subscribers massively aids retention and the perceived value to the reader. Age and demographics also play a big part, and there's been a rush to attract younger audiences from magazines and newspapers because there's the belief and understanding that they are the future of a particular brand. But if you look at the first graph on the top right, it shows actually retaining Generation X, Z, and Millennials is going to be very tough. Huge swathes of those plan to cut a number of their subscriber bundles as fatigue mounts. You don't want to be one of those. The second graph that's also relating to demographics in a way is showing that, or asking the question, who holds the purse strings for a digital news or magazine subscription? And I think if you align the data in the second graph there with your own retention data, I think you'll find that it sinks the idea that if you're the one earning and paying for the news, you do value it more. The age group who pays for news out of their own hard-earned cash the most are the 45 plus, not the younger demographics. Geography also plays a big part. Scandinavia has often led the way when it comes to digital subscription, both in terms of acquisition and retention. And the third graph shows the proportion of subscribers that have a different type of paid online news subscription in the UK, the US, and Norway. And you'll see Norway is miles ahead of the USA, which is in itself ahead of the UK when it comes to subscribers purchasing content from a single brand, which is in the blue, a single brand but a print and digital bundle, which is the orange, and then an aggregator like an Apple News type product in the red. And I think we've got clients in Scandinavia. Local languages certainly play a part. So in Denmark, Finland, Norway, they each have their own local dialect, and readers who are consuming content in that native language don't have to face the competition that you get from English language titles, for instance, right across the world. although the English language, has to be said, is incredibly good, so maybe it still can be slightly competitive. Overall literacy rates have also been demonstrably directly correlating with the propensity to pay and valuing content in Scandinavia, where they invest so much in their education. I think the other really important point is the fact that many of these publishers have been working hard on paid content strategies and retention for a long, long time. And when it comes to reference points, whether it be on One IFRA or INMA, or you read it in the industry press, they're always the ones who've got the ideas, who are testing, trialing, pushing and promoting the idea that paid for content is of significant value.
Well, thanks for that, Ben. I think now what we'll do is talk about sort of the benefits of some of the products in terms of how they can aid retention for the subscriber and why, people do use them, and then go into some examples themselves. So first, you can see the replica editions or e-paper online. One of the benefits of that is the replica has huge engagement time. So most people consume it, normally read it cover to cover, spend in excess of 30 minutes per visit when consuming it. Whereas obviously when people consume web articles, they might go back more often, but the time spent is much lower consuming the content. The e-paper demographics also a really loyal reader base. They really don't really like change, essentially. A lot of them tend to sort of have that format, stick with it, and that leads to more recurring subscriptions. For that, it's seen as a more premium type offering. It's also very habit forming, so users will go back in the morning, every morning, to check the latest edition of their paper. They might, if you've got an evening edition, go back at a set time then to look at that as well. So it becomes part of people's daily routine. It's a really clear value proposition as well. So what we mean by that is the user really understands what they're getting. So they know that when they go into the product, whether it be a digital edition or app, they're going to get the replica of the paper, and the news that they want to consume or the content they want to consume is within the publication that they select. So it's a really clear solution. Some have implemented article view, which also adds a layer to the e-paper offering, which is a nice added benefit, and that adds that perception of more value for the user. So the user could basically, going back to the habits point, they can scroll through the replica at page level or at article level, essentially enabling them to consume the content in a way that they're comfortable with, and creating their own reading habits. And then we have some publishers who are also including image galleries, video content as well within their editions, to sort of help increase engagement times further.
And we find that publishers who do take out the article view or do embed things like image galleries and videos do generally see increased engagement and retention, don't we, Jamie?
Yeah, absolutely. And what you can see on screen now is a video of the replica solution that we provide for The Sun, for News UK, going back to obviously being a really clear value, really clear value proposition for the user. You just see the main edition there of all the archive editions. You can go in, easily access the content, jump between the sections, pages. It's really, simple for the user. Obviously, if you've got the article view, the user taps on the article, clicks on the article, and then it pops up in the optimized view. So it's a really nice, clear solution. They can bookmark their content centrally in this solution. They don't have to go into an edition to do it, as well as searching on the home screen as well throughout one edition or all editions at the same time, as you can see there. So it's about making it as simple as possible for those replica readers, but at the same time providing as much value.
And this web-based progressive web app solution that you're seeing for The Sun in that video, and then on the previous slide it was the native iOS and Android apps, that's all on our latest core platform. So any new PageSuite publishers will be rolled out into this product, and any existing PageSuite customers can speak to us about how they benefit from some of these new product improvements.
Cool. So just the slide you can see on screen now is actually referencing the article view. So as you can see here, we've got an example of the replica app that we provide for the Seattle Times. And you've got obviously the replica edition there. If the user launches the edition, they get the page selector, so they can navigate at page level. And then if they tap the article, you can see the optimized article view, and then also the ability to navigate through article browser. So these four visuals basically illustrate how sort of simple that solution is, but really effective.
And there was a view that replica was best suited to desktop and tablet, but we're seeing now with the increased usage of mobile devices and the increased screen size, plus the advent of this article view solution, that you can still have significant engagements in a replica product on the mobile device. So digital-only editions has been a big focus for us as a business over the last 18 months. We've developed a solution that allows publishers who don't have a print product or a PDF, but they still want to create a completable cover-to-cover reading experience, to do just that on the web and via native apps. The digital-only edition is a product that essentially allows you, the publisher, to deliver digital content via a CMS, for example, into an existing flat plan that you design with us and that you have complete control over, that includes front pages, inside covers, sections, articles, and then a huge amount of flexibility to be able to maneuver either the content if you need, or just publish automatically from that digital content feed. It was pioneered by the likes of The Independent in the UK. We actually talked about it a lot on our last webinar because our product director, Simon Fry, actually came from that business, and he led that project at The Independent as they moved away from print to a digital-only edition. And that insight from him, and obviously working with our development team, has allowed us to create a solution that can be scaled across different brands, across different markets. The visuals you're seeing here are from an Australian publisher who cut print across tens of different regions and still wanted to deliver to their subscribers something that looked and felt like an edition. So they're using our solution to do exactly that, in conjunction obviously with their website, and they have experienced really great levels of engagement. They've delivered the subscription retention that they were aiming for. Obviously, these customers now don't have a print product to pick up from a newsagent or deliver to their doors, but they're still really strongly engaging with the solution that's being delivered with us. It's even got things like classifieds, or you see there the My Tribute section. So whatever your particular content focus, the solution can be flexed to meet that. We're also seeing use cases like in North America from daily papers who get really strong e-paper replica engagement in the morning, because that's when that print product would traditionally hit the newsstands. But obviously their content teams, their journalists are creating valuable stories throughout the day. So using this product, they don't have a print edition, they don't have a PDF, but they can create an evening edition as a digital only to add value to those subscribers, giving them more product for a similar price.
Yeah, and I think that the key thing to add, the key thing to add with that is that what they're doing there with creating the additional evening editions is essentially taking content that they know that demographic may not engage with necessarily online in an article-based format, and just packaging it up in a format that they recognise and they love.
So just to sort of show a little bit more, these are some of the visuals that we've picked from a selection of clients using our digital-only solution. You'll see the difference in branding, for instance. So the mastheads are different, the type fonts are different. The way that the pages are displayed can be different. You can have single article pages over 4 columns, 3 columns, 2 columns, or single column for a more tabloidy feel. You can have maybe something that feels a little bit more like a broadsheet with multiple articles on a page. We're working with magazine publishers to have that more glossy look and feel from their digital-only editions. So there's a great range of existing templates that publishers can pick from, And the huge percentage of the content automatically streams into these templates without the need for an additional editorial layer or control. Now, obviously, our toolset allows people to do that. So if it's digital content, the headlines might be more optimized for SEO, for instance. So you might want to trim those down to make it look and feel more like a traditional edition headline. But those are the two use cases that are really doing very good things in those two markets. But there's a huge amount of interest in other places, with publishers maybe looking to cut print certain days of the week, Monday through Friday, don't have print and distribution, but have a digital only edition, then have a bumper print edition at the weekend, for instance. For magazine brands, we're starting to get interest from maybe weekly publishers who could use this to create a digital daily, or monthly titles who create weeklies, or spin-offs around certain themes or verticals like sport or business or food or politics, to target a real niche in their audience who would love and engage in this type of content. And that obviously would aid retention. We've created one-off specials for big events like elections, sports, finals, and those are really popular with subscribers too, because they feel like they're getting more delivered straight to their inbox via email or accessible within an app on their phone or tablet device. So another sort of big topic of debate and conversation when we're talking to publishers about trying to retain subscribers is this question: to SDK or not SDK? And essentially what this is saying is, if you've got multiple apps within your brand in the store, so maybe you've got one live newsfeed app and then a separate e-paper app, do you combine the two? Do you try and go to market to your audience with one big app that's got everything in it, or do you keep them separate? And for a number of years, the limitation was actually down to the vendor side. So there wasn't a huge amount of vendors who could successfully deliver a light and flexible e-paper SDK to go into a live newsfeed app, or a willingness to work with in-house dev teams or agencies who built the more live newsfeed based apps. Us as a platform, we actually can offer both. So we've got a live newsfeed product and a digital edition product, and obviously those two can be blended perfectly. But not everybody wants to license both solutions from us. They might have an existing app that they've been built, or a preferred agency that handles the development, and then that question comes into play. What do? Do you combine them, or do you keep them separate? So if you keep them separate, then you are sort of recognizing the fact that they do tend to be dramatically different reader groups. The e-paper digital edition readers tend to be a bit older, tend to be a little bit more wedded to that daily curated reading experience, but also are the ones that tend to value content greater and pay more for it. Live newsfeed type products tend to be cheaper. They tend to be more focused on multiple interactions per day, less curated. I think if you keep them separate as well, then there's a benefit, the fact that both of them have got quite simple use cases. You can't get lost because they deliver completely different things. One good point that was raised from a client of ours who was looking to combine our digital edition app into their own existing inbuilt live newsfeed app was a fear that would their readers who are paying the premium price for the e-paper see that they could get similar content for less if the two products were bundled together. I think we've seen from examples like the LA Times, who use the SDK, and Media House, who use our SDK, that hasn't actually been delivered. People who love the digital edition and the e-paper will still continue to pay for it, but the opportunities, as Jamie will talk about in a second, are higher.
Yeah, and I think there's a number of advantages of having everything together. It's a really simplified message from a marketing perspective for your users. So, i.e., however you want to consume our content, whether it's the article-based content, the replica, the interactive puzzles, etc. If it's all in one place, it's a really clear message. Go here to access it. It can all be, it's all nice and laid out for you in one single environment. They only need to install one app on their device. That's quite important as well. Obviously, everyone knows that people have a certain amount of apps on their device and they only use a small percentage of those. So if your users have to install multiple apps to consume your content in different ways, because they like to do that. You know, is that something that's going to be viable for them, or you know, are they going to keep equally engaged with both? There's a high volume upsell opportunity because, as we mentioned about Replika, it's a really engaged audience versus a live news, although a live news type audience is much greater in numbers. So what you are doing is, by putting the Replika within your news app, you could be exposing that product to a far greater number of people and increase their engagement with your content as a result of that. So rather than them spending, you know, looking at 2 or 3 articles, spending 2 or 3 minutes per article per visit, you know, they could be spending more time consuming actually that more curated content in the same place. And also there's cost efficiencies as well. You've got one product to support, one product to market. All of that type of thing provides can provide cost efficiencies as well across the business. And that leads us nicely into an example for Gaelic Life. They're using our live news app with the Replika SDK within it. So it also contains a link out to their fantasy football option, and it's got a mixture of free and premium articles. So if you just go to the next slide for me, please, Ben. We've got a short video on that. You can see on screen now the free and premium articles once that launches. Okay, so really clear for the user. They can choose what they want to view, add, remove topics, reorder those. So when that, particularly on mobile, this is useful. When they go in, the content is displayed how they want to see it via a topic selector. And you'll see then that that's reflected in the article display. And there's the free and premium articles still. If they click on a free article, they can view it, but there's still an option to try and get them to subscribe at the bottom. If it's a premium article, obviously they have to subscribe to, you know, access that. You'll now shortly see that they've also embedded things like podcasts as well inside their feed. So again, it's that idea of creating more things that the user can do within a single environment, which works really nice. And there's the Replika element included within there. So it's really nice and simple for the user to switch between those two without getting lost, as Ben mentioned earlier on. And here's the link out to, the fantasy football element. Again, you can search as well between the news articles and the Replika editions, within the same environment as well. So it's a really nice, clean, easy user experience.
You can see how this would work with acquisition, because you've got this metered paywall approach, and also the digital edition element sits behind the subscriber login. But from a retention perspective, it's great as well, because all of the content is easily accessible within one product. And the platform, and I think your own strategy, needs to have the flexibility within it so that you can actually operate different business models within the same app environment. So if you wanted to make all of the live newsfeed completely free, but still have the digital edition locked down, you could. And all of that means that from a publisher perspective, you can work it to your advantage to try and help your acquisition and retention as best as possible. Okay, so the other element to retention that's been particularly key has been the addition of features and functionality to the digital products. So we recently relaunched the Sun, moving from another provider to ourselves, as just a straightforward Replika edition, sitting behind in-app purchases or a subscriber login for a certain price per month. But over the past few months, since launch, we've added in a live news feed to add features and functionality. We've also added in videos with an integration with Brightcove, again, so that although people are paying the same amount of money, the actual product itself is getting stronger, and therefore will be deepening the relationship and engagement that can be had within the Sun app for subscribers. Cartoons are also, for newspapers, important to consider. We see huge engagement in the niche elements of a newspaper alongside your more traditional content. Jamie will touch on puzzles, but things like cartoons are great to have popped out because people love to save them offline or even print them out. It's amazing the amount of times that if a publisher hasn't got this piece either in the mobile view or the full screen mode, that readers do complain because it's the type of content that they expect and love to engage with. A number of our clients have also successfully added things like interactive traffic and interactive weather and sports scores within our platform. Obviously now, because we've got the live newsfeed component and the digital edition component, you'll see that there's been a standardization in the product throughout today's webinar. They've all got this bottom tray navigation with 4 icons, which means that things can be switched in and out depending on what your brand needs. So that's what people have done utilizing that space.
Yeah, and also things like the puzzles as well, as Ben mentioned, they provide quite a bit of value as well. So if you can output that content and display it within your digital products, it's another thing obviously the users can do within the app. It gives that perception of more value as well for the subscriber from a retention perspective, and also increases engagement. They're really engaging within the digital products. People spend a lot of time going, generally playing the puzzles. You've also got personalization as well. So having the user being able to choose what content they see, again, that provides a perception of value and makes the app useful, because when they log into it, even if they've not got a lot of time, the content is there really quickly for them to access it.
And we can write that back to publishers' websites as well, can't we? So that if somebody wants to log in to the website who has been using the app and personalized it in the app, all of that personalization can get written back so they can get that seamless experience on the web as well, which is quite nice.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got the push notifications part. So the benefit of using things like Firebase to create welcome series, which we did a webinar on previously earlier this year, and adding that sort of customer service element to the apps and digital products. So when someone first launches the app, they get a nice message saying welcome to the app. A week later, predefined message saying remember to check this out in the app, and that type of thing, rather than just your edition's ready to view standard notification. All of these sort of things help make the user feel valued and can help drive retention. And then we've got the archive last of all. So archive can be a really nice added value. We have some serving up classic editions. So that could be a particular edition that's associated with an event or a time period from within the archive. And we have publishers who are packaging it up as sort of an added value. So check out, here's today's edition and here's the edition from a set period of time, or, this date, this time 50 years ago type thing. It just, again, gets people intrigued, gets people looking at it, makes them think that they're getting more for their subscription. And then we have another approach with the archive where people have got really extensive archives and just basically say to the user, as part of your subscription, you also get access to all of our archive content.
It appeals to the nostalgia, doesn't it, that sort of correlates with the type of audiences who really engage with digital editions.
And on screen now, you'll see a video for an app we just launched for DC Thomson for the Courier. It's got basically the puzzles, which we just touched on. So what you see now is the edition there with the archive, the supplements all displayed nicely in the single environment, and then the interactive puzzles, which are provided by Puzzler Media, which we've integrated natively into the app. They're essentially a content item, so the user can play them interactively, but they can also bookmark them for offline viewing. And it doesn't mix with bookmarks that they have for their edition itself. So as you can see at the top there, it's bookmarks, then puzzles underneath. But again, really, really nice user experience and simple for the reader.
And we know that publishers who've got additional rich content, such as puzzles, that's outside of their traditional newspaper or magazine, do see deeper levels of engagement. And that all plays into the fact that will also aid retention too. So that brings us to the end of today's webinar. Really appreciate all of you joining us. I think now, if you have a question, feel free to ask it, and Jamie and I will go through them. We do have a couple already. How easy is it to have a replica edition, a digital only edition, and live newsfeed all in one? Jamie?
Yeah, so it essentially they're just modules of our solution. So within the platform, we've got two core modules, Edition and Live, and Replica and the Feed editions are part of the Edition module. So you could add one or both of those together, and then it would just be adding the Live News module to that. So essentially, you could combine all three of them together if you wish to, or run them all separately.
Yeah. We've got an e-paper that has got lower audience than the website. Can you give us some growth ideas? I think, Jamie, you touched on that earlier, that digital editions do tend to have lower audiences than websites, but the engagement is significantly higher. I've got a couple of things that work particularly well. So in North America, daily alerts for newspapers or weekly or monthly emails for the magazine publishers works. It delivers it straight into people's inbox. And it's amazing how many publishers don't use email marketing for their digital edition, but that's one thing that can definitely do it. Jamie touched on push notifications. We've got an out-of-the-box integration with Firebase, which is completely free. So trying to drive audience that way by using notifications, correlating it with your Google Analytics account to see what percentage of your users have lapsed, and maybe sending them a targeted message to try and get them to re-engage. Jamie, have you got any others?
Yeah, I think with the push notifications as well, it's there's a number of different areas to that. You've got the onboarding customer service element, but like you said, the also recognizing when people are at risk of churn, and also getting messages out to them before they're doing that. There's also things like the in-app rating logic, which is also useful because it helps prevent people having a negative viewpoint of any app, and pushing back towards your customer call center rather than necessarily just coming out of the app straight away and posting a negative review which you can't respond to. So there's all little things like that again which sort of aid the experience, little prompts in the app saying, are you enjoying your experience, yes or no, that type of thing.
Yeah, perfect. What percentage of publishers combine live newsfeed content and digital editions? Broadly, it's increasing. In North America, I can think of Newsday, who combine the two. LA Times combine the two. Boston Globe have it separate. In closer to the UK, I think most of the publishers have separate. I'm trying to think. Daily Telegraph, Daily Mail, The Sun. The Sun even still has a separate app, even though it's got live newsfeed in the digital edition app. So I would guess the percentage is still relatively low globally, maybe 10 to 20%. But I think from the interest that we're seeing, it's increasing certainly year on year. I mean, Jamie, I know in Europe in particular, where you've got lots of potential clients who are talking to you, there's lots of projects around implementing the SDK, certainly into an in-house built app, isn't there?
Yeah, I think that's gradually increasing as well. I think over time, a lot of the trend is of people having separate apps was from a technology standpoint as well, where there was challenges of combining the two solutions previously. So over time, those user bases are built up in a separate app. So for a lot of publishers, as you mentioned earlier on when we were talking about the SDK specifically, Ben, that there's a risk factor there on you've got to make sure that when you do combine them that it's the right time and done in a really controlled fashion.
Cool. Okay, thanks everyone for all the questions. Unless there's any others, obviously this webinar's gone on slightly longer than our usual, but hopefully it's been good. It is the last one of the year, so we thought we'd put a little bit more into it than usual, eh? Hey, Jamie. Thanks for all of your attention. As mentioned at the top, if you're interested, this will be sent out as a recording so you can share. The deck will be available too. If you've got any broader questions, get in touch with your account manager if you're an existing client, or hello@paytweet.com if you're interested in knowing more about us. But appreciate your time. Have a good end to your year. Fingers crossed 2021's better than this one, eh? Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.